Okay, we're back with Morelli. Morelli, that's a joke because she just said sometimes people call her Morelli. They just combine your first and your last name, right?
Yes.
Yes. So we're back with Morelli, and I have a totally different look, don't I? I have a background. I have a 4K camera, and we're looking so pro. So all of this came down to the fact that we did a podcast interview with somebody, and they'll go nameless, but their setup was so much better than mine. And I spent the hour talking to this individual thinking, I look so ghetto. You see the back of my office. I put zero effort into it. It's like you see paperwork on my desk, which was embarrassing. And my camera was like from 2015, it was like 1K, and my guest had a 4K, and it was amazing. So immediately after the episode recording, I went on to the old Amazon and I bought myself a proper camera, 4K. And I told Donovan, we need a proper background. So we whipped out the old background that I used to use back when there were hair shows. You remember those days? And so I would go to the hair shows and we had this background. So now I look professional.
Yeah,
right?
You look legit now.
So legit. But I was complaining to Morelli before we started recording that this 4K, it's showing all my flyaways. It's showing like my gradually balding hairline. It's like way too crystal clear. And so I need to go back to 1K, I think.
No, you don't. You look fabulous.
Well, thank you. Okay, so we left off with when you got hired, when you started becoming an educator, you got hired on with Kenra. So let's start there. And was that your first educational experience? And why did they hire you? I know that sounds like a weird question, but right?
Yeah, I mean, I applied several times to several different brands. I think why Kenra probably hired me was because in the last episode, we kind of talked about how I created my own photo shoot session so I could create this portfolio, and it was just a way for me to kind of get into that space. So I had to make my own photo shoot because trying to even get into that session stylist space is really difficult too. So I just kind of made my own path throughout this entire process. So I think I got hired because at that time, Rob Dubray was the education director, and I think he liked me. We just kind of, I think he liked something about me, obviously. I mean, I had this guy who's like in charge of all of the education of Kenra, helped develop the Kenra color line, and so yeah, I don't know. I think it was a combination of my diligence of constantly applying, constantly putting my resume and putting it out there, and interview skills. I've applied numerous times. So every time you interview, you just get a little better and better, right? So
100%.
Yeah.
I want to get into a little bit of the nitty gritty of applying, because I think a lot of the listeners are like, okay, what does that mean? How do I do that? Like, does it mean that I talk to my Kenra rep and say that I want to be an educator, or do I have to like go on their website? Where do I send a resume? What does a resume for a hairdresser even look like? Tell us about the details of the application process.
Yeah, I think I talked a little bit about that in the last episode too, where I had spoken to the reps, and in particular, I talked to the Kenra rep, and she had told me at that time, like, oh, we're looking for a real colorist. And I just remember being a little thrown off. So even with, the adversity that I received with that, you just still want to, I would say, up your resume game, right? You want to network. You want to go to the hair shows. You want to talk to the people behind the scenes. It's not so much the face of the brand that you're trying to go talk to. It's not so much the, people who are on stage that you want to talk to. You want to talk to the account executives. You want to talk to the VPs. You want to talk to the directors. You want to talk to the people who are all of the people who are overseeing all of these hair shows. And those are going to be, you want to get their emails. Those are the people you need to get into. LinkedIn's a great source. Those are great ways to see kind of openings. But at the end of the day, there are so many people applying for these positions. So really want to get those emails at direct contact. And I cannot tell you how important a cover letter is, a really good email along with a resume attachment. You know, it's applying for a job isn't just giving your resume. Like, the resume is great, but they're looking at so many other factors of how well you can communicate, what's your presentation skills like. And I can tell you my application process was very long. It took, I want to say, 6 to 8 months because,
wow.
Yeah, and because they were very selective. They not only had me interview with several people, I interviewed with different departments, the sales, field sales, VPs, the education directors, the other educators, and on top of that, I did a technical interview. And then I also had to submit a video application of my skills, my presentation skills. So, there was lots that goes into it. So the more that you practice all of these skills, if you're trying to get into the educator space, what I would say is just pop up your phone, record yourself presenting, watch how you present, and just get better and better and improve, see what you can do. It's kind of like when I look at now, like I'm in the YouTube space, I look at my very first YouTube and it's so insane how my presentation skills were just completely lacking into today, how I can speak on this podcast with you, right? Mm-hmm. I would not be in the same space to be able to have the confidence to speak like this. And a lot of it just comes with practice. It's just putting your phone up. No one has to see it. Just put it up, record yourself, and see where you can improve and get better and better and better.
That's right. And when you do that, it's so uncomfortable, right? Yeah. When you watch it, you're like, oh, it's cringe. My God, it's so cringe, as my 13-year-old daughter would say. So cringe.
So cringe.
But you have to do it because it's better that you cringe and then you fix it gradually over time than the decision maker who you seeked out at the brand that you want to work for says cringe when she watches it or he watches it, right?
Yep.
Better that you cringe, fix it. So it's that kind of uncomfortable learning process.
Absolutely. And here's the reality. I know I speak about this and I don't know how you feel about this, but this is kind of why I think there's so many men in the educator space, is because they have so much more confidence, or for lack of a better word, balls, to like go out there and just be like, you know what, I'm going to show up and I'm going to do my best and I'm going to take this chance. And I feel like a lot of females, we get kind of like intimidated, we get scared, and we're just like, oh no, I can't do this. And we don't make the jump, right? We don't want to go, and we get scared. So
yeah.
When I learned that pretty early on, I was like, why are these guys doing this? Like, why is there so many men? It's because they have the confidence without even the skill set yet. They're just like, you know what, I'm gonna go for it. Mm-hmm. And so I was like, I need to have that confidence, and what better way than to just keep pushing through and trying? Because the rejection is what you learn from. The negativity that you get back is what you learn from. I don't see it as a bad thing. I'm like, okay, what did I suck at this last time, and how can I be better?
Right. 100%. The willingness to try. I tell my kids all the time, life is a lot about just trying things. Mm-hmm. Don't worry in advance whether you're going to be good at it or not. Just try it.
Yeah, just do it.
Just do it.
Get started.
Yeah, and maybe have reasonable expectations that you're not going to be great at it at first, of course. And so maybe that might take the edge off of the discomfort and the emotional abuse that kind of naturally comes with trying something for the first time and then cringing when you watch yourself. Yep. But I think it's maybe men are better at that. Maybe that's why there's more educators who are men. I don't know. But, whether you're a man or a woman, just try.
Yes.
And then try to get a hold of your emotions so those negative emotions don't prevent you from trying again and again and again, which is what it's all about.
Absolutely. I think we have to always remember, like, back to childhood, which is hard for us, a lot of us to do. But when we're infants, there's nothing preventing an infant from trying to walk, and they try so hard to walk, make those first few steps, or even crawling. It doesn't matter what milestone it is. And as parents, we put so much praise into all of those little falls that they have, the little oopsies and things, and as adults, we don't have that same praise, right? We don't have anybody going, oh, good job, you're doing great, right? So you got to do it yourself, because we're adults now, and it's hard to get out of that mindset of like, we have all been a beginner at some point, all of us.
And you should absolutely praise yourself for just trying.
Yeah.
Even if it was cringe.
Yeah. And I will just put this out there. If you want to watch one of like my very first YouTube videos, it's still up there. It is like terrible. I look at it and I'm like, wow, I'm not even speaking the same. The inflection's not the same. I'm very stiff, it's just, I'm a completely different person. And I leave
hilarious.
it up there as a reflection for myself.
I love that. So Donovan, can you put the link to what Morelli is talking about in the show notes so people can easily find it? And for those who don't go to the show notes and they want to go direct, where do they find it?
They can go to my YouTube channel, Morella Minelli. Just type in Morella Minelli and click on the videos and scroll all the way down. You'll see my very first 1 or 2 videos.
Hilarious. And that reminds me of my first podcast video, which is going back to the Stone Ages, 2017, when I sat down with Andrew Does Hair, and it's so bad. I mean, everything about it is so bad. We had a little cheap lavalier microphone. Is that what they're called? Like lavalier? Anyway, the little cheap thing.
The little lapel mics.
Right. And I bought it from Best Buy on the way to meet Andrew at my salon. And
no idea how to use it.
No idea how to use it. And was Donovan there? Or I don't think we had Donovan yet. He's probably chuckling as he's listening to this, but I don't think we had Donovan yet. And I took and I unboxed the microphone like in the car as I'm driving, and I'm like, oh shit, what am I going to do with this? And I thought, well, maybe I need another one for Andrew, or I could act like I'm interviewing him like I was on TV. So I took a comb and I taped the microphone to a comb, and then I used that. And so bad, the whole thing. And I was so nervous, and he was great because he's Andrew Does Hair. And that's also, I think, on our YouTube channel. So maybe, Donovan, put a link to that as well, if the listeners really want to delve into the cringe of our history. Everyone has it.
Yes, we
Everyone
do.
has. I bet Gai Tang has some super cringy early videos.
1000%. I know, Guy is a friend of mine. We worked together. When I was working at Kenra, he did a lot of projects with Kenra, and, he's given a lot of insight. I'm like, you just need to just do it,
Yep.
Get started.
Just do it. Despite everyone kind of making fun of him in those early days.
Yeah. How many people have made fun of him that we've heard behind the scenes of like, oh my gosh, I can't believe he's sharing all this information. Like, how could he be this hairdresser telling the public how we do hair? And now look how many people are doing it today.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm one of those people. I'm on YouTube too, I admired what he did, and it was just like, definitely he's the first to be on YouTube and do these videos. So,
and I'll never forget, because he was at Salon Republic in West Hollywood, and I was there also at the front desk watching him film himself with his phone up, and that was before people were doing that, going like this and filming themselves with their phone out.
1000%. I think, I think at the end of the day, when you see it's kind of like right now we're in this age of AI, and everyone's like so afraid of AI. This is the time for you to embrace it. Anytime something's new, learn about it and just, dive in head first and see how you can use it, leverage it, and make it part of your business, because you can't fight against how technology is advancing. We need to just implement it in what we do every day.
Totally. Okay, so why don't I kind of like going from where we are to, well, no, I'm not going to do that. I'm not going to let your AI comment derail the conversation.
Maybe we need a part 3.
Because, well,
maybe you love me that much.
Don't twist my arm.
I might have to just be part of the Hair Game podcast.
I've been looking. Look at you. You're like, we're talking about interviewing and stuff. Listeners, did you see what she's doing? Morelli is using her like Jedi interviewing tricks on me.
Hey,
the decision maker.
Take the opportunity, every opportunity.
That's right. I love it. Okay, so we're going to table the AI conversation because it's a great one, but I don't want to derail our larger conversation, which is you get to Kenra, and was it all roses? Were you immediately good? You know, how long did it take you to really get your footing?
Yeah, so you know, of course I was nervous. I was the only, from what I remember, I was the only hair educator without a college degree, actually. So that was something
that's interesting.
Yeah, so Kenra really valued education because at that time they were Indianapolis based, and I, you know, was this newbie with just a lot of skill set, but not the college degree, right? So
I wouldn't think that a college degree is necessary, but okay.
No, not necessarily. I just think for being a full-time regional education manager, they valued that because there was a lot of organizational skills that you needed to have in order to do this job. So
okay.
I think what helped me too was that I did have the management background, and that was something that they did value, that I had an extensive amount of experience in managing high dollars. So, but yeah, I would say at first I was very timid, but I remember my very first hair show, which was the BTC show in, I want to say New Orleans. And I think that was the first time I was able to kind of showcase my skills. And then from there, you know, the team was like, oh, you can actually do a lot of things. You can do color correction. You can do this. And then when I came back to California and I was doing a tour, I had my very first class that I had to present in Bakersfield, California, which is like the armpit of California. And
apologies to those listeners from
I'm
Bakersfield.
Sorry. You know what? If you're from California, you guys all know that that's what we call it, right?
I'm not going to defend Bakersfield.
No hate to Bakersfield. Love Cali. Okay, got it. But I feel like I'm a native Californian, so
yeah, so you can say that, yeah.
But yeah, I was in Bakersfield, California. I had my very first large class, and I had to present in front of, you know, the VP of the West Coast, and I had all these bosses there, and I was super nervous. And they gave me this model. This is the very first model I ever had with Kenra, and this model had the most fried blonde hair with like roots that were 4 inches long, level 2, and they said, we want you to make her red and we want you to make it look like this. And I was like, okay, let's do it. This is a color correction, but let's do it. The transformation took me about 8 hours because I had to use the technique that Kenra was teaching.
Okay.
And because of that model and because of that correction I did, because I had to do, you know, filler on it, I had to do highlights, I had to do a lot of stuff. I actually probably can find these pictures at some point. They're not the best pictures because this was back in 2014, right. But nonetheless, it was the first time that my bosses that were watching me present, they said, first of all, they were like, you did so well. You killed it. This is your first class. Like, oh my gosh. And the model, wow. And this picture of this model spread like wildfire through the entire Kenra company.
Wow.
And that's when they were like, she can do a lot more than what we think she can do. So that was how I got the opportunities to create, you know, color campaigns and create techniques and create the education curriculum on certain things. And, you know, there was a lot of collaboration between a lot of the educators. And then also that's when they learned too, like, wow, you can style too, you can do updos. So I was the first one to create the first upstyle campaign for Kenra and create an upstyle collection that was taught all over the US. Wow. So in the beginning, yeah, it was all roses because I was like, wow, like I felt like finally someone's recognizing my skill set.
Super cool.
But, you know, just like every corporation, we get new bosses, we get new structure. At that time, too, there was an acquisition from Henkel. So Henkel's a large corporation, much like, you know, L'Oreal, P&G.
A German company.
Yeah. And so we were acquired as a sister brand, you know, to Schwarzkopf, Joico, Sexy Hair, can name all of them. But so when that acquisition happens, you know, there's the moving to LA and there's a lot of stuff that goes into it. So, you know, there was a lot of changes, is how I will say it. And I had a lot of, you know, butting heads with my boss at that time. But during that time as well, I'll just kind of plug this in because I really feel like this is so instrumental in my like journey as in how I'm where I am today. But I had a very traumatic airplane flight that I was flying from Orange County to Washington or to Seattle, and we had to do an emergency landing because there was a cabin pressure issue. Oxygen masks came down, like it was a whole thing. And after that, I was like, I don't know if I can do this job anymore. And I just had this fear of like, I want to be alive for my boys. I had 2 boys at the time. And so I didn't get back on the plane for a little while. And my boss at that time was like, you need to get over this like fast because this is your job. Your job is to get on a plane every week and you have to do this. And at that time, I was just so emotional and a wreck really mentally that I was like, I can't do this. And you know what? I don't like you anymore. And I was just doing so much pushback that it did hinder my job at that time. But that was the pivotal moment of when I decided that I was going to leave my job at Kenra at some point. But what got me back on the plane, because I still go on planes today. I'm actually going on one this Saturday to BTC Miami. But I got on the plane only because I had this amazing opportunity to do the Vanderpump Rules 2-part season finale for Katie Maloney's wedding. And I was like, and I was leading this wedding. Like I was the lead stylist. I did her hair. I was in charge of like organizing like who does what. And I was like, I can't pass up this opportunity. And if I do, like this is either going to like make me soar, or if I don't do it, I'm just going to be where I'm at right now.
Right.
And that's
so trauma be damned, I'm going to do it.
Yeah. So I got back on the plane. It was the most difficult plane ride of my life.
From where to where?
We flew, which was a short plane ride, but we flew from Orange County to Reno.
Okay. So like an hour.
Yeah. An hour. And to this day, you know, I have major flight anxiety, but if I'm sitting next to a stranger, just kind of what helps me is I let my neighbor know. I'm like, hey, just so you know, I have anxiety. I might talk to you. If you don't feel like talking to me, that's cool, but just know I might grab your hand. So, and sometimes I do. And you know what?
Wow, really?
Yeah, I've only had one really mean person that sat next to me, but usually everyone's like really understanding and they will talk to you. I love talking to people on planes. It's so weird. It's such a strange thing because I never would do it in the past.
You're one of those. So did you ever was there ever a guy sitting next to you and you grabbed his hand and he thought that you were hitting on him?
No. Okay. So I had a man sitting next to me, and it's so funny because I told my husband this as soon as I landed, but I was like, the plane was shaking. I was trying so hard to just be in my, zone and calm myself. And there was a lot of turbulence, and I grabbed his thigh. Like I full on grabbed his leg. No. And I was like, I am so sorry. I am so sorry. And he was like, it's okay. He's like, do you want to hold my hand? And I was like, yes. And he held my hand and he talked to me the whole way down.
No
and
way.
It made me laugh, and I was like crying laughing that I grabbed his leg, that it kind of took my mind off of the plane ride.
Yeah, the embarrassment overwhelmed the anxiety.
Definitely.
So maybe there's a lesson there. Like, I don't know, maybe you have like a routine where you embarrass yourself severely on a plane on purpose in order to relieve yourself of the anxiety.
Exactly.
Interesting. Very interesting. I would say if a girl did that to me, well, no. If it happened during the turbulent part, yeah, that makes sense. I would definitely be empathetic about that. I don't have that kind of flight anxiety. I've never suffered an event like you're talking about where those things come down. I flew yesterday, and the lady came up to me. I had my son, who's 11, next to me, and the flight attendant looked at me and said, you know that you need to put your mask on before you put his mask on. And I said, yeah, I've heard that my entire life. I didn't say that, but I'm like, yes, got it. Thank you. And but I've never actually had any of that happen, and so it's hard for me to say that I wouldn't have the same sort of anxiety after that experience.
Yeah, I think what helps me today, and I know we're totally getting off topic here, but I think what helps me today is I literally tell myself Beyonce and Kim Kardashian get on planes every single day, and they're still alive.
And theirs are smaller.
And their
planes are much smaller.
Yeah. And I think the other part is too is when you educate yourself on planes and how pilots are trained. The sole purpose of a commercial airline pilot is to know how to react in emergency situations. That is their main purpose. It's not flying the plane itself. They know how to do that. It's what do they need to do in emergency situations. And even with what's kind of been happening this last year, you can see the pilots are doing their job. The pilots are 1,000% keeping us safe, and doing a fantastic job. So I think when you understand that, it puts a little ease in you.
Yeah. If you're one of the people who allows logic to write your mind, I know some people don't want logic to write their mind, but yes, absolutely. Flying, if you look at the stats, is safer, I think, than driving, and safer than doing so many other things.
Or even, I had the opportunity to sit next to an air traffic controller, and that was the best flight I ever had because she brought in so much perspective of how many emergencies actually do happen and how they react and how safe it is. So if you have the opportunity to talk to an air traffic controller, it is the most eye-opening thing. And it to me, it just was like, wow, okay, yeah, I understand why some planes have 2-4 engines and why there's a backup to a backup. Like, it just makes so much sense, So yeah, I think when you put it like, talk to somebody, talk to a pilot, talk to an air traffic controller, you'll be good.
All right. So you got over that anxiety. You did this high profile wedding. I'm curious, did the wedding result in the career boost, career assistance that you hoped?
I would say that it definitely brought a lot of traffic to my website because that was something that I was building while I was working at Kenra. Since 2014, I had it, and I started blogging as a hairstylist. It did bring a lot of traffic to my feed, and it brought a lot of traffic. It was like, who's this person, right? But as far as like opportunity from it, not really. But it did give me, it served a huge purpose. It helped me get over my fear of getting back on the horse, right? Like, just get back on the plane, like, just go do this. And it also gave me a lot of experience, something to be able to say that, I've partnered with Bravo TV and Vanderpump Rules. It did definitely, I don't know how to articulate this, but it definitely helped me personally in my career. I can't say that like it brought me more opportunities. Maybe it has indirectly, but it did bring a lot of traffic to my website.
It gave you confidence, right? It gave you another feather in your cap, something you could put on your resume. I think that's probably impressive, and maybe you don't know how that might lead to opportunities between then and now, but maybe when people who have wanted to get involved with you, when they went to your website, they're like, oh, wow, that's super cool. She's been pressure tested in these high profile situations. She sounds like somebody that I want to learn more from.
I can't say. I think that was one of the things that also helped me maybe win the BTC Upstyle Award in 2017. Was that same year as when I started doing a lot of upstyling, and it was the Vanderpump Rules, and then I did this upstyle, and I did the upstyle my second or third upstyle campaign. So it was just a lot of, like, again, traffic, like, who's this person? And I did have a lot of brands at that time reaching out to me, but I was like, oh, I'm actually employed by Kenra, so I can't work with you guys. But, there was definitely, who knows what would have happened had I been independent. But definitely, after that, I started the process of leaving my position and opening up my salon. And it was solely because I had also gotten pregnant during that time frame. And I was like, I can't get on a plane every single week with this infant. My anxiety just can't do it. So that's when I made the decision. So in 2017, while I was doing all of this, I already started the process of opening up a hair salon. So that way I could have a media space to continue to create content. My intention wasn't to do hair behind the chair. My purpose and intention was open up the salon, hire some stylists to create the bread and butter that I need to pay for the overhead, maybe make some extra cash along the way, right? Because you want to make some money having a business, but also it's going to provide me with a space so I can make the content for YouTube. That was the intention. But long story short, I had the baby in 2018, and then I opened up a salon in January 2018.
Oh my gosh.
And then had my baby in February of 2018.
You birthed 2 babies
exactly
within 2 months.
Yeah.
Normally, it's what, 9 months to birth the baby? You birthed the baby in 2 months. 2 babies in 2 months.
Yeah. So just that whole, it was a lot of pressure, right? I knew that I was going to have this baby. And then after my maternity leave was out, I was on the fence of, do I continue with this position? Will Kenra give me something else to do that I can be home more and maybe still make content? Or are they going to ask me to go on a plane again? And that's exactly what happened. As soon as I got back from my maternity leave, it was, you need to get back on a plane again.
You said, I had 2 babies in the last 2 months and I don't want to go on a plane. And they said, I'm sorry, Morelli, you have to go on a plane. And you said, no more.
Exactly. Yeah.
Okay.
So that was the beginning of my independent journey. But what I will say, and maybe this does tie into the Vanderpump Rules opportunity as well, but when I put in my 2-week notice for Kenra, I had the digital marketing manager or director, I'm not sure what his position or title was. I had never met him at that time. He was kind of new, but he called me within a week of my notice and he was like, where are you going? Like, why are you leaving? And I, told him the story and he was like, okay, well, that's fine. You can leave, but can you at least work with us still as a 1099? Like, we'll contract you. You are so amazing. We want you to do YouTubes. We want you to do this. Like, would you be open to that? And I was like, yes, like, let's do that.
Yeah, so, great. Which is exactly what you wanted, right?
Exactly, yeah.
Yeah.
So
more of your terms,
yes.
Doing a lot of the things that you had refined and gotten good at. And I mean, you now had a salon baby that allowed you to film.
Yes.
And you didn't have to get on a plane anymore.
Exactly. Yeah.
Amazing. That's great. Well, that was, you took a chance, you took a leap, and that worked out. And that's okay. So here's the deal. So you and I keep talking.
Yes.
Okay. And the listeners seem to keep listening. So as long as you and I keep talking and the listeners keep listening, we're going to keep doing episodes. So you've now interviewed yourself into a 3rd episode, and we're going to continue the story.
And co-host. I'm just kidding.
Well, I think technically in the podcast world, if a guest gets 3 episodes or more, they are considered a co-host. I'm kidding. I just made that up. Okay, so we're going to pick up from there on our next episode. And after we finish with your fascinating story and all the lessons incumbent upon the story that all of our listeners are getting the value from, we're going to talk about AI. Does that sound good?
Yeah, let's do that.
Okay, we're going to do that.
I love AI.
I don't know why that's so funny when you just said that, but it was really funny. Like, I love AI. It's almost like you were just taken over by ChatGPT and ChatGPT is speaking through you.
Oh my gosh. Yeah, ChatGPT and I are like BFFs. It's like the most revolutionary thing possible. So
are you sponsored by ChatGPT?
I
need to get
not.
that out. We need to clear the air.
Yeah, no, I use every type. Well, we can talk about that in another episode.
Next episode.